Hey there, this is Josh from the CAE at Tyndale. So when it comes to schooling, motivation is usually a struggle at least some point in every student's academic career. And this can be for any number of reasons, ranging from mental health to physical health, or simply because we don't like the subject that we're working on or the task that we're doing. But what I'm going to go over today in this video is how we can keep motivated and focused, and how in many ways that's a skill. And this skill largely involves building competency in yourself, your ability to handle stress, and your ability to persevere. Because I don't know if you ever noticed this, but there's this funny thing that whenever we feel stressed, overwhelmed, and just impotent in the face of a task, we avoid the task. We procrastinate, we make excuses, we run away, and sometimes, at our worst, we just simply shut down. We become unable to focus. We can even become unable to function entirely. While it is important to build healthy habits that lead to academic success and living a meaningful life, which I do have a video on here if you haven't seen it yet, I'll leave a link in the video description below. It's still also important to protect what you've built up. It's important to defend yourself against those feelings of stress, anxiety, and being overwhelmed. So what I'm going to go over in this video is how you can build your skill at handling some of these negative experiences that we get as students. That way, you can protect yourself from having your motivation and your focus stolen from you by fear, anxiety, anger, and frustration over your own work. But before I begin, let me just say that if you find yourself constantly struggling with focus or motivation, or if you're experiencing a lot of these negative feelings for long periods of time, please take some time to talk to a professional. Whether it's a doctor or a counselor, it might be worth looking into. But with that out of the way, let's get right into it, shall we? So let's imagine what it's like to get started on our work. Say you're getting started on an assignment, maybe you're reading, or maybe even just thinking about getting started. And you start to have this negative feeling that goes something like, I really don't want to do my readings or work on my paper right now. Literally every student has this feeling at times, both the first year undergrad and the senior year graduate student. But the funny thing is, once we actually get started, some of that anxiety and stress begins to dissipate. In fact, the longer we stay at it, the more those feelings begin to decrease. And at some point, we even become so focused on the task at hand that we do forget those initial worries that we just had. But here's the thing, how quickly those negative feelings disappear, it depends on a few things. It depends on how familiar we are with a subject, how interested and passionate we are about doing the task, and how skilled we are at doing it. All these things affect how quickly those negative feelings disappear and how long they stay away. So what this means is if you're someone who's new to university, or maybe you're working on a subject that you're not experienced with at all, or worse, don't like, eventually, if you let yourself, you will become more familiar with what you're doing. You will become more skilled at it, and hopefully you'll become even a bit more interested in it. In which case, these negative experiences will become more infrequent. Of course, all this takes more or less time depending on who you are, what your personality is, or what your learning style is. But at the end of the day, these things will eventually come to pass if you let it. Let me give you an analogy here. Becoming competent in your studies or in a certain subject is a lot like lifting weights at the gym. In the beginning, it's hard, it's painful, and you'll feel the burn. It's not fun, but over time, you build the strength you need to lift the load, and eventually that weight is no problem at all. So then you increase the weight to make things challenging again. But then eventually even that weight becomes easy and natural to handle too. What ends up happening is you become stronger overall, and it all becomes very natural to you. That's exactly what academia is like. Instead of working your body's muscles, you're working your brain muscles. Now, what does this look like practically? Well, imagine that you're getting into some schoolwork that you are quite comfortable with already, and you find quite easy. What you'll find is that once you start, you'll probably focus for about 90 minutes on average, let's say. That's because the average amount of time we can concentrate on schoolwork is often about an hour and a half. Obviously, it depends on the subject, the type of work you're doing, and how familiar you are with it. But let's use 90 minutes for a start. After that 90 minutes or so has passed, what you'll then begin to notice is that you're starting to procrastinate a bit. Or maybe you're just finding it hard to concentrate. You might even feel a bit of tension in your body or your head. Maybe even get a headache. I hope not. But either way, you start noticing some signs that maybe it's time to take a break. And you probably should do so, especially if you're reading or studying anything, because realistically, you're not going to be taking in much information at this point. Which, fun fact, is exactly why cramming doesn't work, because just as you can't go to the gym and lift weights for hours on end, you can't push your brain muscles for long periods of time without giving it a break. It's just not going to retain much. But now let's pretend that you're working on a subject or a project that you're just not at all familiar with, or that maybe you find quite difficult. Honestly, you're probably not going to be able to work for 90 minutes straight on this. Instead, you might go for an hour, maybe 40 minutes, maybe even less before you hit your limit. And that's okay. You're going to start struggling at that point. That's to be expected. But if you want to make progress on this, you'll eventually need to push yourself. Because let's say you start feeling like you need to take a break about maybe 30 minutes into your study session. Well, you can take a break right there if you want. If you're really strained, go for it. But if you take a breather, maybe even take 2 minutes to rest your brain, and then tell yourself, let me just go a bit further before I take a real break. And what you'll find is that you'll be able to put out more work before your concentration begins to deteriorate again. And then you can take a well-deserved break. And if you keep doing this, what you'll find over the next few days and weeks is you'll start to be able to focus for more than that initial 30 minutes. If you keep challenging yourself, eventually you'll gain that brain muscle to reach 45 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes, maybe even longer. This is exactly why weightlifters do what they do. When they hit their limit, they push themselves just a little bit further so that next time they can go even further than they did before. However, there are times when our negative feelings become quite crippling, or when we just have a lot going on in life right now that's distracting us. In those moments, when we start our work, sometimes we find ourselves barely able to focus for 5 minutes, even if that. And our immediate reaction to this is to usually avoid the work, procrastinate, or just shut down. Again, everyone has moments like these. And it's during times like these, really the trick is to stick with it as best you can. Allow yourself to experience that tension without beating yourself up. Take deep breaths to calm yourself and acknowledge that, yeah, you're having a hard time right now. You're having a hard time focusing. Tell yourself that I'm just going to do the best I can in this moment. I'm going to get as much work done as I can, and that's okay. Because what I'm feeling right now, you can tell yourself, is that this will calm down. And once you do that, just start working again. And watch as while you're working, you'll start to slowly get into the zone, and that tension will dissipate a bit. You'll find you'll start being able to focus again, and you'll be able to do more work, and you'll feel calm. But if that tension comes back within 5 or 10 minutes, because it can, repeat the process. Give yourself some time to calm down again and get in the zone. Because really what you're doing here is you're training your brain and your body to become comfortable with schoolwork again. So the trick is to repeatedly respond to those negative feelings that are screaming at you to avoid your work. Acknowledge them when they arise, but tell them that everything's going to be okay. We can do this until it's time for an actual break. And if you keep responding to that tension, eventually you'll find yourself concentrating for longer periods of time again. And if you want some extra help with that self-soothing and calming down, I highly recommend that you get in touch with Tyndale's counseling services. They have some amazing people who can train you in relaxation and grounding techniques. Otherwise, there's plenty of apps on the internet for deep breathing exercises, relaxation techniques, and mindfulness. Maybe give some of those a try. Look them up. Either way, by treating your schoolwork sessions as a form of training, you start to learn more about yourself and your limits. Your work becomes less of something you dread because you're not sure you can even do it. And it becomes more of something that you feel competent about. And if you feel competent about doing your work, you might find yourself taking more pride in it. And if you take more pride in it, you might find yourself also starting to enjoy your work. And if you're enjoying it, you'll probably be more motivated to do it. But know that even weightlifters need a coach to give them tips. So don't be afraid to seek out advice. Tyndale has plenty of tutors, writing consultants, counselors, and advisors. Their services are all available online. But I'll leave some links to those below in the video description, so check them out. Anyways, this has been Joshua Matta from the Center for Academic Excellence, and I'll see you next time.